Alright, Luciano, it's time for us to go ahead and have another conversation. What aspect of asexuality or just sexuality in general do you feel like discussing today? Hey Dudebro, how's it going? It's good to see you again. I like the red on you, looks very stylish. In today's video, we're going to be talking about a hypothetical model of sexuality that I think is very neat, not only for people who are asexual, but also for people who do experience the normal level of sexual attraction, people who, at least according to some asexual people and people who study sexuality, are referred to as allosexuals. And I'm looking forward to it. It's a very interesting take on something that is oftentimes hard to describe and hard to pin down in words. Aw, that's so nice. Thank you. I like that people are noticing my aesthetics now. So, before we get started, and I'm hoping that the question that I'm about to ask isn't going to be seen as offensive or anything, but I just wanted to know, for someone who doesn't experience the level that society deems normal of sexual attraction and sexual desire, why is it that you have such an interest in talking about sexuality and in talking about and in comparing yourself to other people? Because that's kind of odd to me. It's just an odd thing to talk about, something that you don't have or something that you don't experience. That's an understandable question, although it does kind of remind me of the whole question that theists sometimes ask atheists. It's like, if you don't believe in God or gods, why do you talk about him or them so much? And the reality is that I talk about asexuality and I talk about sexuality because there are other people who want to talk about these things, but they can't. They're worried that they would be asked things that are too intrusive. They're worried that they would be made uncomfortable. They're worried that they would be discriminated against. And I understand that concern. And as someone who doesn't have that fear, I think it's something that I ought to do. It's also because I want to connect with other people who are like me, and in creating content that revolves around that, I can go ahead and do that. But it's also to destigmatize these topics. Just like religion should be a topic that people have no issue discussing even if they disagree, I think sexuality is something that people should be discussing even if they don't experience it in the same way, or even if they don't experience sexuality point blank. I think it's important that we have these conversations, that we begin to demystify them. Do you understand that? Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense, especially because I remember that you told me that there are some people who are asexual who are born asexual and they don't really understand what it's like to feel sexual attraction or sexual desire. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think that what you're doing after you explained it like that is something that's noble and worth doing. That's awesome. I'm happy I could be the person to sit down and have that conversation with you and explain to you why it is the content creators who talk about the same content that I do and the same types of things that I talk about do the things that we do. The model of sexuality that I am going to be talking about today isn't necessarily the most scientific model, but it's a model that's intuitive and easy to understand. And just like when we were talking about the distinctions between romantic and sexual attraction in the other video, it's useful for people who want to have a better understanding of different mentalities and different mindsets when it comes to sexuality. The first thing I want to talk about is primary and secondary sexual attraction. Primary sexual attraction is a sexual attraction that's based off of immediately available information. So it's based off of someone's looks, it's based off of someone's gender, and it's based off of other immediately perceivable features. Secondary sexual attraction, on the other hand, is based off of a person's connection with another person. It is if it's used independently, it doesn't depend on things like gender or on things like perceivable features, but it depends on things like attitudes and perceptions and characteristics that are not necessarily perceivable to the naked eye. Does that make sense? Yeah, it does. That makes a lot of sense. That explains why it is that I find Ace just to be so hunky. Yeah, still really odd, but I'm not here to kink shame you. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about is primary and secondary sexual desires. Primary and secondary sexual desires refer to the reasons why it is that people want to engage in sex. And everyone can experience sexual desires. Maybe not primary sexual desires, which refers to someone's reasons for wanting sex that are solely personal, whether it is for pleasure, emotional or mental well-being, or for any other reason that's exclusively personal, but secondary sexual desires, which are a wide variety of things, such as wanting to conceive children, such as wanting to ensure that someone else has a pleasurable experience and someone else is emotionally fulfilled in ways that sex emotionally fulfills them, or just a wide variety of other things. Just about every single person who is in a relationship that has some aspect of sexual actions or sexual desires experiences secondary sexual desires, including asexual people, because asexual people may not experience conventional sexual desires and conventional sexual attraction, but if they are willing to have sex, which there are plenty of asexual people who are, then they are willing to do it for one reason or another, and those reasons are their secondary sexual desires. What an oddly intuitive way to look at sexual attraction and sexual desires. I think it makes sense to look at sexuality that way. I like it a lot. I'm very glad that you could share. Would you say that there are other things that asexual people talk about and write about that explain other aspects of sexuality and of sexual desire in ways that are that intuitive? Absolutely. I'm glad that you enjoyed this discussion. There's definitely other models of asexuality and sexuality that deserve to be shared, that deserve to be better known, and that say valuable things based not only off of asexuality and what it's like to be an asexual, but also say important things that people who aren't asexual should know, not only about us, but about them. These things talk about different ways to conceptualize sexuality and what the different sexualities mean for society and for culture in general. And I like being able to not only have this information, but also share it as well. And I'm looking forward to our next discussion, dude bro. Welcome to my first ever end screen. I'm going to try to keep this short. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I know that I enjoyed making it, and I would like to shout out a new friend and fellow YouTuber, Inordinate Refraction, who is a physics student and someone who's hella dope, who has 2 videos up on YouTube. I'll be linking her stuff in the description, and I'll be telling you guys to go and check her out. I'm also going to be shouting out other YouTubers in the future, and I hope that you guys have had a wonderful weekend and have a wonderful day.